I was kind of floundering a little bit at that point when I was in my 20s, you know, and I was fighting with the fact within myself that even if I am learning under uh, Shyam Benegal, I will never be able to have my own identity. I tried very hard to get a job on my own, standing in queue, waiting for jobs, interviews, and asking for an interview and things. Finally, you have come to me. Told me that you're starting from the bottom.
Okay.
Nothing special. You are like everybody else, and you will work your way up. Still haven't broken into that.
So many years still haven't broken into those camps.
Not yet. Well, I do hope somebody will call me. I don't have the answer for that. I think you need to call them and ask them. Yeah.
So now, are you with Shyamji gone? Are you now looking after his production house? Are you venturing into production
Yes, I
back?
am thinking, I have started that process. This will be a beginning of a very interesting journey for me. And let's see where it takes me.
Many years back, you did the Mahatma with Shyamji.
Yes,
Now
I
you're
did.
doing Gandhi with Hansal Mehta.
Yes.
How have you been able to, compare the two? And the two different people you worked with.
That Shyam Benegal showed Gandhi when he was only in South Africa. Gandhi by Hansal, the season one, is the early stage
Okay.
of his,
Okay.
yeah, which is wonderful, and it is a much a longer period. I convinced him. I said, "Please attend your 90th birthday," because he'd said that, "Pia, I can't make it."
Hello everyone. This is Jaskiran Kapoor, and we're back on Just Talking. And with me is a very interesting, colorful personality, Pia Benegal, who comes with this a very illustrious, award-winning career in costume designing, a whole costume drama of 30 years. And yes, she is the daughter of late Shyam Benegal sir, who's given us groundbreaking cinema and left us with a rich vocabulary of cinematic expression. And she's here at Cinevestor International Film Festival where they're paying a tribute to Sham sir. So, hi Pia, welcome to my little show in
Hello,
Chandigarh.
hello.
I believe you're coming to Chandigarh after a long time.
Yes, that's true.
Is it because of the festival or because of your father? And you also have a workshop here, Anna?
Yes,
So,
I've come predominantly for a workshop that I wanted to attend, which was
okay,
on production.
okay.
And secondly, they're showing three films. Uh, uh, I mean, in memory of my father. And of course, it is SIF, of course, a second edition, so that too. So it's a combination of three factors.
We lost Shamji last year in December. So, as a daughter, daughters have a different relationship with their father. How
They
was your relationship with him?
They do, and my father was really quite special, and our relationship was not what you call very effervescent and loud and huggy or physical or anything like that, because he was not like that, and I'm not like that. And but he did not have to say anything, and I did not have to say anything, but it was known our the love that we had and the bond that was there. It was always there. It was known. It was silent, and it was unspoken, and it was very strong.
So, did it? Did your love for costume begin by watching his films? How did it begin? Because you're an out and out Bombay girl, born
Yes,
brought up in Bombay, or
absolutely.
was it the city that influenced you? या शहर का ही ऐसा कुछ एक magic है which infused in you? Okay, I'll also get into this line. Or was it your mother? Because I read somewhere that Neera ji is also, she also used to do a lot of costume work for Sham Babu's films.
She did work on costumes on a little bit, but my mother has an incredible taste for saris, and her collection of saris is quite superb. And I mean, her family in terms of my nani and my the my mother's friends and people she has known for decades and decades have all been very well turned out, beautifully dressed in saris, and all of them are just very beautifully, I mean, have wonderful taste in clothing. So I suppose I was exposed to that, and always in traditional saris, traditional weaves, and I was exposed to that while I was growing up. But I wouldn't say that that was my choice. Um, Costumes actually came to me by accident
Okay.
as a profession.
Okay.
So, since that was a question that you had
Yes,
asked
yes. How did
initially,
जो होता है ना, if you watch your parent making something and then you sort of you're influenced by it and you also feel like doing that. You didn't per se get into filmmaking, but you got into a storytelling through costumes.
yes.
So I wanted to understand that how did this particular love for costumes begin, and how did your work start from there?
Well, going back,
Hmm.
there was a film that was offered to Shyam Benegal. I was working in his company as an assistant in production.
Okay.
And then I was called in by him, and he said this budget for this film is a pittance. So we don't have the money for a costume designer. So could you please do that? So I said, I don't know head or tail of costumes or tailoring or cutting or anything like that. So he said, you learn on the job.
Okay.
And I said, where do I start? He said, here's a script, read it, and try and put it together. And any questions, come back to me. So that's exactly what I did. I read the script that day and I started making notes, started doing my research. And whenever I had a query, I went back. And it was a very simple film, fortunately.
This was which film?
Antarnaad.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was able to do it. There was no difficulty, fortunately.
Okay.
And my team was one tailor, two dressmen, and myself.
Okay.
It was
उससे पहले had you made anything
for costumes.
at home or just like that for
नहीं,
dolls?
no, no,
Like a little,
no, no.
as little girls we
not,
make कुछ तो stitch कर दिया,
no,
hanky
no,
stitch कर
no,
दिया.
no. I was never a doll person.
Okay.
I liked teddy bears.
Oh, or
And
make a stuffed toy.
no, none of that. I was not very much into any of this.
Okay.
And so I started on Antarnath, and then we went on to, and I enjoyed that experience. I had a lot of fun on that film.
Okay. So what was the first thing that you designed and made?
There was no designing, it was more being a costumer on that.
So what's the difference, between a designer and a costumer?
Correct. So on this, it was more, it was not really design as much as organizing the looks for those characters, which was not very large as in characters. There weren't many characters in that film, and the crowd. They were quite simple with their simple backstories. So I organized those looks, and then the necessary aging and things like that. And that's how I learned how to do everything on this. It was more like a child starts writing, ABC on.
How old were you?
I can't remember which year it was. I seem to have forgotten.
Early 20s, you must be.
No, no, no. I may have been in around 28 or something like that. Maybe little later. Maybe
So,
30.
but your education was in films only while growing up?
Yes, I've always been. No, I was in advertising before
Okay.
that. After college, I joined HTA, and I was in the film department there. Then after that, I tried to get work in ad filmmaking companies. That wasn't didn't go down very well. So I because I wasn't able to get work easily. So then finally I joined my
Was
father.
there a reason why weren't you able to get?
I think you should ask the people who said no.
Is it tough for a woman, or was it tough at that time? Is it still tough? Was there a gender thing, or was it just
I
okay?
don't know. I
She's
don't
Shyam
think.
Benegal's daughter. Let her go and work with him.
I think it's more like what you've just said.
So, did you have to also give an interview to your father? Was there a professional setup in the office? You are one of the employees.
No, I tried very hard to get a job on my own, standing in queue, waiting for jobs, interviews, and asking for an interview and things. Tried for a year. Then finally, I was very upset that I had to finally uh,
Quite.
request my father, could you please employ me? Can you
And what was
imagine?
his reaction? Aayi
Uh,
gaye ghar.
he said, okay, finally you have come to me. So it was like that.
Was he a hard task master working for?
No, he wasn't, but he told me that you're starting from the bottom.
Okay,
Nothing special. You are like everybody else, and you will work your way up.
go through the grind.
Yeah. No special treatment for you. And I said, fine, I'm happy with that as long as I have a job. So he said, if as long as that we are clear with that, then you start from the bottom.
So when this film happened,
Which film?
the first film that you got,
Antarnath.
Antarnath,
Yeah.
after that, was it clear with the bosses, with your father, that okay, her strength lies in costume, let's put her in that department?
Yes,
Did it then, the
that
growth
is
happen from?
that is what happened actually. He felt that um, maybe this is where she will do
Shine.
better. Yeah, because prior to that, I had been in production, and there was a period when I had been in direction. But in production, I was fine. But in direction, I was kind of, it was not gelling. I was kind of floundering a little bit at that point when I was in my 20s, you know, and I was fighting with the fact within myself that even if I am learning under uh, Shyam Benegal, I will never be able to have my own identity.
Yes.
I was fighting with the fact that I will never have my own identity because I need to have my own identity. So that was actually the
That's
fight.
the friction and the fight.
And there was no friction.
No friction, but you know, the conflict was there.
The conflict was within me.
That is, I think, that is with a lot of kids that they want a name separate from already the established
Correct.
parents' name.
Exactly. So
It's a big thing in Bombay, especially because there's this whole debate of nepotism also.
so the issue was never, my father was had no issue with me, and we worked very well together. I had no problems with him. He allowed me the space. There was no issue there, and he never got into my hair. I never got into his hair. It was a very, very symbiotic, comfortable relationship professionally. No favoritism. That was quite clear right from day one when he said you're starting from the bottom. you know and I accepted that totally. So it was really a very respectful.
So after Antarnath, what films came your way?
uh, 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 all
All
all the
Shamji's.
films that he offered me, I did quietly.
Mammo,
Yes,
Zubeida,
yes, yes, all of them.
Aligarh.
Aligarh
Aligarh
was
was Hansal Mehta.
Hansal Mehta,
Hansal
which I
Mehta.
enjoyed working on very much.
Yes, and then like we were discussing, which we sort of just tore away from, the difference between a designer and a costume person. How do you differentiate? Because we have designers who are also there as part of films doing costumes for them. Hana, Manish Malhotra is one. He's on the runway also.
Yes.
Hana. So how do you differentiate Whereas there's Dolly Ahluwalia. She's a thorough costume person. She will not go on the runway.
Yes, true.
So Dolly Ahluwalia Tiwari, you also will probably stay
No,
the
I won't.
purist.
Yeah.
So what's the difference between a costume designer and a fashion designer?
Well,
What's the inherent difference that you
the
see?
costume designer will actually only design costumes for with a story. You know, they usually do it with a script and with a for characters, because it's not for a person. It's for a character in a story, and every character always has a back history. So the clothes that you are designing for that character, with no actor in mind, you know, the actor comes later who will get dressed in those clothes playing the character, you know, because when you are planning and designing and sourcing for the film or the series, you are always thinking of the character. That at least that's how I work. So the casting may take a little bit of time. So you're never thinking in terms of the actor. The actor comes later, and the costume designer would be, at least I can only speak for myself. That's how I function. And the fashion, and you were telling your story with your costumes. Uh, in terms of showing the history, the back history, the story of the and the character through those clothes, and those clothes can be used as part of the emotional journey of that character. Yeah, in that story that will finally be screened and seen by people.
So when you have, say, a costume is being made, so when you do a film like Zubeida or Drohkaal or say Mammo or Bose, you've also done Mahatma, and say Aligarh, Well Done Abba, you've done all these films. Uh, ऐसा नहीं होता that okay, so if say Zubeida, there is Karishma and Rekha both wearing the costumes. Is there a clash? Ke one actress looks better than the other. Is there that kind of clash, or do you have to keep the actresses body type, complexion, everything in mind while you're designing? Because one is that you've created the costume for the character. One is you also have to know the character whether it'll look good on them or not. Or is it the other way around? कि आपने जो बना दिया है, they have to wear it.
Well, for
And then
Zubeida,
there's the clash between actresses. I don't think so. The men will mind much, but the actresses are conscious of their
no, no.
choices.
I think men also do have preferences in terms of fittings and things like that. There's
Okay,
no running away from that.
you've had your
That is
challenges there.
no, no. There are challenges for all of them, for
Huh.
everybody. But that's part of the job. That's part of the job. But in terms of Zubeida, since you mentioned Zubeida, I must say that Rekha ji and Karishma were just wonderful, and I had no difficulty with them. And they were most gracious. They wore their costumes beautifully, and
They set a trend. You know, costumes do set a trend. You
they
you
do.
may move the movie with the costume,
Yeah.
but eventually we look at it and we say, "Acha, next event or shadi or some social gathering, it does become a part of the social
Well,
trend also."
that was in fact original royal clothing. I with my research, I found the original styles worn by royalty.
Yes, and we had never seen anything like that before
Correct. Yeah.
on Indian cinema
Yeah.
to that detail.
Yeah. So that required a considerable amount of research by me, and I also used original jewelry,
Wow.
real jewelry, which I got just for a day.
So it must be very difficult कि इसको कुछ हो ना जाए.
Correct. Exactly.
Ensure it.
Exactly.
It should be right in front of me.
Exactly. So that was quite a task actually.
Yes.
So I got friends from Delhi to come
Okay.
on to location, and they were like my little army, mini army, to keep watch on the jewelry
Jewelry and the
because
clothes.
no,
So
no, clothes,
clothes were fine.
clothes were
So
not an issue.
this is very interesting because school may we don't really give that much importance to subjects like history, geography, science, and civics. Children always in India, especially push hota hai, science पढ़ लो, maths पढ़ लो. So when you're doing costumes, you have to go through entire chapters of history all over again. And at that time, internet भी नहीं था कि you could Google and find out and connect that easily with people. Now, so everything's far easier in terms of connectivity.
Correct.
What were the challenges that you faced, and how much of history reader did you become? Did you love history in school, and that you
Well,
had to read so much history for this also?
I must tell you that I was much more of a science freak,
Okay,
and history was not my favorite subject. But it, as an adult, I am much more a history, a person interested in history, culture, and things like that. Once I left college, you
and
know.
that happened how?
I think it's just I was always interested in music and museums and things like that. As a, I mean, once I entered my, let's say, in college, you know, senior college years. But I think once I left college and I started working, my interest in and I joined films. That's when my interest in history increased. Once my exposure to a variety of
Yes,
films, music, and I started traveling.
yes.
I start
You started
my
connecting with cultures and history of that place.
yeah,
It plays
and
an important role in designing
absolutely
costumes
yes,
also. Can you
absolutely.
give us some examples that for which film you really had to travel and pick the
Uh,
flavor of that area to create that costume and look?
when we go back to Zubeida, I met family members of the royal. I mean, people of. I mean, I met. I went to Jaipur. Then I met a number of people who were associated with the royal family, and they were very generous and allowed me to go through their albums, and I saw lots of paintings and things like that. So that was an amazing experience. Then I went through a lot of libraries and books and did my own research on jewelry and things like that. So that was
That was one.
wonderful.
What about Bose and Jang-E-Azadi?
Exactly
Because
this
those were also
that was yes,
historical.
yes, yes, that but I like doing my
So,
bookish e- ex-
are you a costume drama specialist in the Indian cinema milieu? Or are you someone who wants to experiment a lot?
well, I prefer well, I'm a bit of a purist. If I am allowed the necessary budget, I would like to stay closer to the bone as possible, as pure as possible, but it's not always possible. So then you always go for something, you try to be as close as possible without it looking shabby,
So
you know.
how is the new age cinema helping you? The Mindy cinema, the mainstream and indie is being called Mindy now. There's a
Really?
new word, yes. Mindy cinema. I thought Mindy Kelling ho jayega. That American actor Mindy Kelling. But it's
No.
Mindy cinema that they're saying. Mainstream plus indie. How are you faring in that? Because where
I
there is one side is Yash Chopra and Karan Johar kind of cinema. You know, one is Anurag Kashyap kind, one is Vikramaditya Motwani. There are factions and sections. Where does Pia Benegal stand, and how much of costume work comes from that section?
for me, well, actually, I still haven't broken into that.
So many years still haven't broken into those camps.
Not yet. Well, I do hope somebody will call me.
But you have such a great body of work. Matlab, on OTT, on television, on cinema, on theatre. So why is it that there is this such a big gap then?
I don't have the answer for that. I think you need to call them and ask them.
Or do they want very mini skirts and new kind of costume drama?
That's a question you need to ask
They
them.
need to ask them.
Yeah.
So now, are you with Shyamji gone? Are you now looking after his production house? Are you venturing into production
Yes, I
back?
am thinking, I have started that process. And it's a journey now. It's the beginning of a journey. And I do hope it will pick up. Uh,
You plan to make more films and move from the.
I do hope to. It's. I do hope that this will be a beginning of a very interesting journey for me, and let's see where it takes me.
Any stories he's left
There were
incomplete and
some scripts that were left, but he knew that he could not do it. So, but they're very scratchy at the moment, very basic. So, there's a lot of development yet to be done. So, for that, one needs finance, one needs to get people to give seed money to develop the scripts and things like that. And there are other people who are coming to me with their scripts and their synopsis and things like that. Also, for that, I need to get seed money and start developing the scripts and things like
so
that. So it's all still
in the
early
process.
days. Yeah.
So do you think now cinema has become into this startup mode, a venture mode?
Yes, it is. It is very much in a startup mode right now, and I do hope I will find
Some venture capitalists into it.
a space there, and I will be able to move further in.
So many years back, you did the Mahatma with Shyamji.
Yes,
Now
I
you're
did.
doing Gandhi with Hansal Mehta.
Yes,
How have you been able to, compare the two? And the two different people you worked with.
the directors are totally different, styles are totally different, and the periods are different.
How? As in, what was that, and what? Can you throw some light on it?
Shyam Benegal showed Gandhi when he was only in South Africa.
Okay.
Yeah. And Hansal Mehta's Gandhi season 1 is a period when he is in Rajkot and he goes. Actually, I'm not supposed to be talking about
He'll
this.
come. We will talk to him also. So there are three parts into which it's been divided, right? Gandhi, Hansal's Gandhi.
Yeah.
Is it a tricky subject to pick up right now in this kind of environment, or will it do well? You think?
No, Gandhi is, Hansal's Gandhi is a wonderful. Let's put it this way that Gandhi by Hansal, the season 1, is the early stage
Okay.
of his,
Okay.
yeah, which is wonderful. And it is a much longer period, is early stage of his life. And when he is a young man and he goes to study in England and then he returns
To India. Okay.
returns to India and then he goes to South Africa.
Okay.
So that's the
First phase of his
first
life.
phase of his life.
All right. But during Mahatma, I read somewhere that you had to carry, like, there was to carry all that luggage to South Africa, and also,
Of
so yes,
course,
it was,
because those clothes will not be available there.
yes. So, how much, which was the most challenging project that you did in terms of designing, in terms of creating the look and making sure that it's part of the story? And then, it must have taken your blood, sweat, and tears into it.
I think
जो रुला दे project मतलब
no, no.
also paid it very well.
Every project has its own. Is challenging at that time. So, making of the Mahatma was very challenging at that time. And at the end of the project, you feel that, wow, it was so easy. I managed it because you managed it. But at that time, in the midst of it, you feel that, oh my God, you're bogged down with so much, you know. So the same thing happened with Bose the Forgotten Hero. When I started with it, it seemed like, oh my God, there's so much and there's so much more yet to be done, you know. And then by the end of it, you said, "Oh wow,
ये भी हो गया.
ye bhi ho gaya," and it seemed like, wow, I managed it, so you can't believe that you've actually managed it. And because there was a period at one point when the stress level was so high and that I was doing it all alone. One of my assistants walked out, and then I was looking for a second assistant, and this kind of thing. I think that happened once or twice because there were some problems with dates and stuff like that, because it got extended with the prep and things like that. And there were issues like that. They suddenly she, I think, may have got a better job. She was getting more money on another project and stuff like that. She just vamoosed and things like that. Then I got a working on Gandhi was also an amazingly rewarding uh, project, also extremely stressful. And then I am looking forward to the release. Now
When is it going to be released?
I can't answer that. I really have no idea.
Oh,
It's still it's still in the post production, so I can't
so
answer that.
nowadays we see a lot of cinema that has a lot of um, mythology in it, history also, films based on history. Chama was there, and there is on the gods and goddesses. So how much are they giving importance to costume when you watch these films, or are they not giving importance to the authentic look? Matlab, were we so bedecked at that time? Were we so full of jewels at that time when you
What
do your research?
you mean at
When you
during the
see these
Gandhi
when
period?
no, when we see all these films like Chama, or when we see Sanjay Leela Bhansali's kind of films, when they do historical films, I'm not going to name anyone, but when we see these recreations of history, mythology, and religious films, do you think that they do justice to the kind of stuff? Are they really researching into it? Were people that heavily bejeweled and bedecked at that time? Now that you've done so much research and read about it,
Well,
are they
if
true to the costume drama?
Well, if you look at the miniatures, Rajasthani miniatures, Mughal miniatures, and you see the jewelry worn by the women and the men of that time, and if you stick to that, then you will see jewelry on both men and women. Now, the thing is that you have to dress them in the fabrics that would be worn at that time, which would be cottons, mulls, and things like that, because they would be in layers of fabric.
Yes,
Mull being a very thin
thin,
and
and that was
uh,
very fine malmal
very
that time,
fine.
very fine.
So the women would be in these beautiful,
Ghagras, yes.
yeah,
My
fabric.
nani had, it was almost 3 kilos.
Yes, yes. So everything, even their all their outfits would be layered and multiple layers of fabrics. So how it would be gossamer, fabrics, and then you would have layers or one on top of the other, and it would look so beautiful. So when the women would turn around, it would
Swirl and everything,
swirl and
yeah.
things like that. So
Dramatic.
it would look beautiful. So, but can you afford having that kind of fabric? You know so then people have to take a shortcut and use other materials, you know and it's so you would want to use that material maybe on the outside, and you use other materials on the inside. And so these are all the shortcuts
But do you
that
think they are being true to some of the costume that was there, or you
I
feel
am not going to
going to answer?
be judge. I can't make.
But how much have you traveled in India to understand that the textiles here are beautiful, and
Oh, they're absolutely exquisite. Indian
like now you know your
textiles
fabric science completely?
are fabulous, are fabulous. But I will not. I mean, with my professional colleagues and things like that, and my co-designers and fashion designers, it's very wrong on my part to say anything about.
But when you travel, do you, for your personal collection, also pick a lot of fabrics? As in now, are you a fabric doctor? ये उठाओ, ऐसे करो,
I love
ये धागा लो,
fabric. I
ये
love
एम्ब्रॉयडरी
fabric.
करो.
I just love fabric. I've got a cupboard full of fabric, and I have a mother who's always saying, "What the hell are you doing with all this fabric?"
Do you like to
So
dress up?
I don't dress up. In fact, I was just asked yesterday by somebody, what's your comfort? How do you like dressing? So I said, I think comfort is what I is my
Aim for.
main form of clothing,
Huh.
and I can't help myself because I'm on the go. I need to be comfortable, and there are days when I will maybe put a little more effort in dressing, you know, but I'm much more comfortable being,
So,
you know.
do you style, like we were talking again before that? Do you style any actor, actress, or no? That is, or
No,
specially designed for
I
anyone?
haven't. I haven't unless I'm given a
If you're given a
script.
script,
Yeah,
or a
yeah,
job that, okay,
yeah,
this is
yeah.
a project I have, not a
Correct.
film, but any project. Can you
No,
design
I've
for
I've
us?
done for plays also, but
For a
it's
marriage,
always
a
no.
trousseau for a marriage?
I haven't done that yet, but I remember on the Gandhi when we were shooting on location. Uh, it was, I think it was more like a joke, but one of the assistant directors came to me and said that when I get married, you're going to design my clothes. So I think that was in jest, more like
No, I
in
don't think
jest.
so.
But anyway, let's see when he gets married.
So, what are the
So,
colors of India? What are the fabrics of India that we should really invest in and keep in our cupboards?
well, it depends on what
Like when you come this
season.
side.
It depends on what season.
Ab summers are on the anvil.
Well, it depends on. Do you want to? Will you be interested in saris, or would you be interested in wearing
So,
only?
I'm also a person of convenience. I'm a creature of comfort.
So then you're like me.
Yeah, so
So
I'm
then
very
I.
happy with my kurta pajama.
So then I think a
Much to the chagrin of upper
different.
middle class, ke you very Downton Abbey, you didn't get ready for an evening dress for your luncheons and for your
I think
suppers
you
and
should just
dinners.
stick to good old cottons and
Yes.
really good quality cottons. And
Uh,
then if you like printed and things like that, but go for good cottons.
all right. And how much of a, like I was speaking with Imtiaz Ali and I said, movies in somewhere are, even the directors, they're archaeologists. You are digging, excavating, archiving. You're a conservationist in some way. Are you also a conservationist and archivist in some way? Because I don't see sarkari departments doing anything, but I feel films in a way do preserve and conserve some part of the culture. And you, because have worked on a lot of period dramas, do you feel somewhere that this kind of conservation and this kind of preservation is required? When you move abroad to studios abroad, they do have their own museums and they do preserve what is there.
Well, I you're talking in terms of conserving the costumes that are
Yeah, the
made
costumes, because that is also
and
part of our
correct.
history. How much are we actively involved in India in
Well,
conserving that kind of history that we have, cultural history?
we are not, unfortunately, the costumes that are being used, made and used on all the films and things are not being, those that are in good condition are not being kept in a museum like a classic cut design or something like that. This was made specifically for Shivaji, or this was made for Aurangzeb, or this was made for Zubeida, or this was etc. Even though Zubeida's costumes were absolutely outstanding,
Yes.
and but I think they were all sold into the market.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they will also all the Chava costumes will also be sold into the market, and they will be recycled and maybe rented or things like that, most likely.
Okay, so all these major production costumes are then auctioned and sold mostly.
I
There is
maybe
no
maybe
studio which is preserving
maybe
them.
no maybe they'll be reused by them if they make something which requires those kind of costumes, or maybe there is an agreement with the costume designer who will use those again. Maybe there's a buyback or something like that with the costume
Okay, so there's a whole
designer.
business there. Will you have something in your production house now as a room where you are just
It
in
takes
some
up a
glass
lot of
boxes? It
space. It
takes up a
takes up
lot
a
of
lot of
space.
physical space, which is also very expensive in
True,
Bombay, you
true.
know. So it depends if it really is worth it, you know. Is it worth it? And so the thing is, having a physical space where you keep the costumes, and if you rent them out, are you you rent against keeping it and then keeping it fresh in good condition to rent again. The economics of it, does it make sense? You know, unless you have something like Angels in London, all the really wonderful rentals which you have in Britain and you also have in the United States and anywhere abroad, they have floors and floors of rental costumes. And if we were to start doing that in Bombay, then maybe it would be
Different.
much
Something,
better. Yeah.
yes. Who has inspired you most in your journey, in your designing, in your costume, in your entire work? And any designer that you look up to, costume designer?
That's a bit of a tough one, actually. Anybody in particular? I don't really have an answer for that
There
because
must have been many inspirations.
multiple, but I wouldn't say a single person or a number of them. I haven't studied any
Okay.
specific designer as such, but there have been several films that
Yeah,
have.
which films have you said, ki, Acha, I wish I had done that?
Well, there was a Chinese film which was, I think you're catching me at the wrong time.
Was it Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon? Okay.
Exactly.
Huh.
That it was Crouching Tiger,
Hidden
Hidden
Dragon.
Dragon.
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
legendary.
yeah, that one. And then there was, I think there were two or three other films. One was the one which was a European film, a British, no. Uh, you, I wish you'd given me this question
Koi
before.
baat nahi. Think about it and let me know later on.
Yeah.
And now, have you found your identity, or are you still Shyam Babu's daughter?
No, no, I do have an identity now. I do have an identity.
You do.
I do.
How was growing up in Mumbai? Was your house always filled with actors, directors coming and going?
It was a busy house. My parents had people visiting them all the time when I was growing up, so it was socially a very busy house. And my father's office was always busy. He had people coming in all the time. Even uh, he had somebody, he had a number of people visiting him on his 90th birthday, and he had a dinner party. We had a big dinner party for him of over around 95 people on his 90th birthday, and he was already very exhausted, and but he was absolutely wonderful. He agreed. I convinced him. I said, please attend your 90th birthday, because he'd said that, Pia, I can't make
90 is
it.
a good age.
Yeah.
And Samdish's interview was very good with him. I think he was very lucky to have that interview with him.
Correct.
I remember mine when we met in Patiala.
Yeah.
And yeah, he had a sense of humor.
Yeah, no, he did.
He had a good sense of humor.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
because
he did. He
and I
did.
said, sir, the entry is from backside. He said, never say backside. It is from the back. I'll never forget it, lessons in Ren and Martin English grammar.
Yeah, yeah.
Tell me, when you are, again, when we talk about actresses or the actors, because Sham Babu's films also, and the films that you do, there is a repetition of the actors. You sometimes
Yes,
get to work with the same team.
yes.
So, how do you hit the refresh button and see them in a new avatar and design the look all over again?
Like I said, that I always organize, I read the script. So the costumes are always made for the character. And then anybody can get into those clothes. The measurements are then,
Then decided.
yeah, because everything's figured out in my mind and then I
So
write it down.
I'll always excited to be part of your.
Yeah, yeah. No
So,
problem.
who have you loved dressing up the most amongst all the actors, and who have you dressed the most?
I can't answer that. There's
Like
no.
Shabana Azmi was a repetition; she was there in
Yeah, I
almost all
think three
films.
times,
Ilarun was
maybe.
always there.
She was there a few times,
Farida
yes.
Jalal, Mammo was beautiful. Sardari Begum.
Farida ji was
You
once.
did Sardari Begum also.
Sardari Begum, yeah.
Yes.
So,
Kiran Kher.
Kiran Kher,
She loves
yes.
saris.
Yes,
So she must have
absolutely.
shared her love for saris with your mother. Did they compare saris?
No, that I wouldn't know. That I wouldn't know.
So you've worked with great names. Of
Yeah,
course, your father. He
yeah.
was Govind Nehlani, Mani Ratnam, Hansal
And
Mehta.
Hansal Mehta.
Do all directors have a different way of projecting their films and work? Is it like
Yes,
there's a
they do. They do. They view
so
things differently. Their temperaments are
mhm.
different. Uh, Willingness to speak, open to discussion, uh, and all that is different.
So who was the easiest to work with?
I
Whom
think
you could have a wavelength, the wavelength matched, apart from your father's.
I think apart from Shyam Benegal, I think I would say then Hansal.
Ansel. So the other two were tough.
I wouldn't say tough, different.
In what sense?
Uh, that's it. I think different would is better.
So all these years, 30 years, you've won awards, you have made a solid name in the costume drama, have your own little movement, and now you're venturing into production. Do we see a history of costume book or something, a coffee table book? Because your mom's also been an editor and writer, if I'm
Yeah,
not
but
wrong.
she's been out of editing for
That's
some time.
blood to is new. So will we see some kind of writing of a coffee table that my costume journey?
I, I think, like I said, I don't have those costumes to
Do you have the
photograph.
photos? Old
No,
photos,
no.
production stills?
I think my biggest mistake, let's put it this way, I never took photographs.
Now to the smartphones are there. Tick, tick, tick.
No, no, no. But one
That time,
started then, na?
yes, to
So
catalog everything.
I never, you see, now the designers are very careful. They
Yes.
have mannequins, they take photographs, they file it, everything like that. When
Yeah,
I
they
started
catalog the whole
out,
thing.
everything, every angle, every bit, but when I started out, there was none of this. Nobody thought about this.
The budgets were also less.
Very small.
How did you make ends meet?
Uh, Tell me, it was very difficult. I mean, I have worked on budgets that were included tailors, dressmen, everything. In one film, I did manage in 5 lakhs.
तो
You
कितना
know?
हैगल करना पड़ता था टू द मंडी मार्केट
Absolutely,
फैब्रिक के लिए
absolutely,
नहीं नहीं
absolutely.
10 rupees मीटर 20 rupees
Correct.
मीटर.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I've managed in 5 lakhs. So it's like that.
Nice. So now probably workshops from you and more classes from you for young budding costume designers.
Oh, it's not possible.
Not possible. But any tips for them? Like if you had to give them 3 words of advice, 3 points. याद रखो जब कॉस्ट्यूम ड्रामा डिपार्टमेंट में आओ ये 3 चीजें होनी चाहिए आपको या
Well,
दो
first of
चीजें
all,
हैं
be most very observant with everything around you in
तो
terms of what people are wearing and the fabrics that people are using. If you want to be in the present day, and look at always be look at paintings, miniatures, photographs,
know
black
your
and white
history.
photographs, yeah, and constantly be always look out for old historic references for pictorial. That's very important, so that you are aware of what people used to wear, you know, and that is very important.
And catalog and
And
copyright your work.
absolutely, that is very
And
important.
keep ego in back pocket, do mentorship with the
Absolutely,
person.
absolutely.
Not easy
Just
to
do
have
not.
interns now.
That is very true. They sometimes talk back too much, and then you have to keep quiet.
Yes. That is another challenge. Chalo, on that note, thanks a lot, Pia. Thanks so much
Thank
for
you
your
so much.
time. And we really enjoyed. And we'll
Good.
come back for more conversations. And I wish you all the best for production now, a new journey. Taking
Yes.
forward Shyam Babu's legacy.
Well, let's see where it takes us.
And it's already there, and we will reach bigger heights.
Well, let's leave it to the skies. The
Yes.
universe is listening.
Yes. That's all from Just Talking. Thanks for watching. Do like and subscribe. Thank you.
Thank you.